Hey YouTube, this is Mike, and I just wanted to share a short little snippet from this episode that I really enjoyed. However, if you want to listen to the full episode, either scroll down this post or head to mikejamesreid.com/podcast for the full episode. Thanks and enjoy. So now, today, given that was the kind of the bit of the story of the past, today, when someone asks you, Clayton Daniel, what do you do? How do you answer that?
Oh, man, I hate that question more than anything. More than anything. I don't know how to answer it. I really don't know, because I don't know if I'm getting off the ground 2 different startups. So does that make me unemployed?
Possibly.
A part of me goes, having sold a business a couple of years ago, I haven't earned income in like a couple of years, right? And so I went on it to fill in some government sort of thing. I think I had to vote for something, and it said job, and it had already filled in as unemployed, I guess, because no registered income has come in under my name in 2 years. And so I'm like, oh, the government just thinks I'm unemployed. So I don't know. Is that the answer? Am I unemployed, or am I I'm a business owner? Like, I hate that. I'd never want to say that. Oh God, definitely not. And so I really don't know how to answer it. These days I just say I work for a Superfund, and that sounds boring enough that I can usually just not have to answer any more questions on it.
Interesting. And of course, for those who are listening, can you maybe give a quick little bit of the backstory about the Superfund that you work for?
So the premise is, in general, personal finance for the last 30, 40 years has worked on the premise that we should not be emotionally engaged to our investments. And that is correct. However, no one listens. Well, 20% of the population listen, but 80% of the people don't interact with their money on a rational level. They interact with it on an emotional level. And so I've built a product with the premise of engaging people emotionally. The method that I've chosen is to discover the stories behind the startups that are in everyone's portfolio. And the delivery is by interviewing these startups that are already in the portfolios of most people, and bringing out their human story, and then delivering that via an app as content, video and written. So the idea is to connect with them, help them care about what they're invested in. And from there, I can link that to education and help them make better decisions and ultimately achieve better results.
Okay. And unless anything's changed since we last spoke, if I was to summarize that all up into you're starting a super fund.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Awesome. So in other words, you are breaking very new ground by building a super fund that allows everyday investors to be able to invest into startups as part of their portfolio, while also, being invested in all the, kind of safe blue chip investments as well.
Yeah, correct.
And so the kind of thing I wanted to dig into around that particularly, because everything I know about you, mate, all the conversations we've had is we've kind of heard this, I don't know how to describe it, the more family kind of side of Clayton Daniel, perhaps the more sensitive side, but then there's this other side of you that's a real empire builder. And I think one of the things that you said to me in our first few conversations was you wanted to, one of your kind of big, hairy, audacious goals in life was you wanted to build a $100 million company.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I sort of, to be really honest, I think part of me was like, really? And yet the more I've gotten to know you, I'm constantly blown away by not just your insight, but your intelligence, your ability just to execute and get shit done. And I've really kind of been proven wrong as time's gone on. And so I'm curious to ask you, how do you balance these two aspects of your personality, right? Where, part of you is about going out and burning the candles at both ends, building an empire, But then you've also got this side of you that, strong family values, family units, something that you've really craved in life. And you kind of like to let your hair down and have some fun at the same time. How do you balance all that?
With the knowledge, actually, what it is, man, is like my main motivation in life is my fear that I'll end up as a small town guy. Like, so fear is my main motivator. And my fear is I'll end up as the person that Mother Nature wanted to dictate to me that I was going to end up as. And I've always kicked against it. I never really fit in my small town. I was bullied a lot as a kid, which a lot of people are, but it's just always, I've never been satisfied with the knowledge that I was born to a single mom in, like a place that has sort of a low socioeconomic, people just typically don't succeed where I grew up. And I've never wanted to accept that. And as I got older, I've sort of learned to focus that. And yeah, I think it's all fun. Like, I'm constantly stoked that I'm not on the dole. Like, I'm constantly stoked that I was able to make it out of my small town. And if that is my baseline, like, that's, for me, success is avoiding becoming the person that, that my life experience was trying to make me become, then I'm a success. And then, so I already feel successful, and I feel like I've already done more than I ever could have. And so now it's just for shits and gigs. Like, now it's like, okay, well, what else is possible? Like, I've got such like a busy history of doing things because my base level was so low. It was like, oh crap, can I get out of my hometown and can I get a job? Right? Like that was my baseline. And so because I have achieved that, then it's like, okay, cool. Well, what else can I achieve? Wow. Okay, cool. What else can I achieve? Wow. And so in a lot of ways, I think not having advantages is actually an advantage, because the only thing that breeds success, in my opinion, is success. And if success to me is achieving something that's small, but I still get it, right? Then I take that momentum or that self-belief and take it into the next project. And so, yeah, like at the moment, I'm working on a project that is technically impossible, and I've been fighting for 18 months to make it happen. But that's fine. I've failed so many times in that 18 months to get it off the ground. But I've learned so much, and nothing's squashed my motivation to keep going. And I honestly think that I'm lucky to not be a small town kid on the dole, that I just feel like anything is possible. And so far, I've been proven right. And mind you, we live in Australia. I feel like if there's one place in the world where that's possible, it is this country. Or maybe Canada and New Zealand as well. But really, I feel like that, we don't have a class system here in Australia. So, it's like America in that sense. But we have a safety net. So I just feel like there's so many external situations that make giving life a red hot go possible that, why not? That's kind of my view of it.
So with that in mind, is that the thing that scares you most in life, is kind of going back to that small town kid, kind of a place where, little opportunity, that kind of thing? Or is there anything else?
No, nothing really scares me anymore. I feel like I've done more than I ever could have done anyway. So, if I never did another thing in life, I'd be super bored. But I've already sort of escaped the town. And it'd take sort of, a lot to get me back there. But that is the worst case scenario for me, right? Like, I feel like I can take any risk in the world, because worst case scenario is I end up in a little town on the beach somewhere, While that is my drive and my fear to avoid, it's a pretty good worst case scenario. No, it's not like Mexico or Colombia where you are at the moment, right? Like a worst case scenario in Colombia is infinitely worse than a worst case scenario here in Australia. So given the opportunities and given the safety nets that are involved and given, the fact that I've already done more than I think I could have, then I've got really no qualms just to keep going, and I'm having a great time.
You mentioned that you've failed kind of countless times trying to get this Superfund off the ground in the last 18 months, and that's, led to progress and learning, etc. Kind of having had that experience, how much failure had you experienced before this previous 18 months? And given what you've now experienced in the last 18 months, my question is, how necessary do you feel failure is in the pursuit of, growth, greatness in life, success, etc.?
Sometimes I wish I was if I was a little bit smarter, Mike, I reckon I would get a lot of shit done heaps quicker. I'm almost annoyed. I feel like because to answer the question, how pivotal is failure? For me, it's an unfortunate reality just because it takes me sometimes so long to granted what I'm building is a pretty complex product. It's probably one of the most complex things you can make, but there's a lot of simple solutions in there. You know what I mean? Like if I knew everything I knew now going into it, I'd probably be able to squeeze 18 months work into 1 month, right? For real. And unfortunately, it's just something I know I have to suffer through. Smarter people probably don't have to fail as much as I do, but I've always considered that, like one of the last lines in that movie, Blow, and he goes, I force a smile knowing that my ambition exceeded my talent. I super, super just relate to that. I would prefer to fail trying something that was beyond me than I would, sort of achieve something that was easy. I think at this stage, I'm all in. I'm all in on that, on the idea of just doing big things. So, yeah, I can't ever see myself turning away from it despite the challenges.